Hi, welcome back to the MemSQL Developer Livestream. I'm really excited. We get to dig in today to a lot of really cool stuff. We left off last time where we pretty much had the component built in Storybook, and now we need to set it in place. I did do some upgrades to dependencies off screen, and so I'll show you that. And as we set it in place, we'll do really interesting things. We'll get to look at publishing events in Vue. We'll get to look at vbind in Vue as well. And then when we call the API, we'll get to look at JWT tokens. And that will be really fun. So let's dive in and do all the things. Okay, so here's Npm Check. And I like Npm Check because it just kind of lists all of the things that I need to do. And then I can go up and down in this editor and just pick the ones that I want to update. And I've updated a whole lot of things off screen to get Express and Vue and all the dependencies up to date. I didn't upgrade, in this case, Storybook to version 6, and I didn't upgrade Cypress to version 4, but those are the only things that I haven't done. So taking a look at what we did, along the way, I did bump into that Cypress types error again. That may go away in Cypress 4. That's what the blogosphere seems to suggest. But for now, I went with the brutal approach and said skip libcheck is true. So also removed this part in the specific tsconfig and just left this left that comment in the global tsconfig. I really hope that upgrading Cypress to 4 will solve that. Cypress 4 seems to be much better at TypeScript. The other lint error that I got was here. It didn't like casting this as a request because it said that the two things were too different. So it said first cast it as unknown and then cast it into Express, or request. That's totally fine. That's in the middle of our mocks. Perfect. I think there was one other thing where there was an any that I needed to specify as unknown, but where we're starting to struggle with is compute valid. So let's fire up Storybook. We've got Storybook started right here, and here's our component, properties. What we were after was validating that this was valid, and it keeps saying valid is false. Now, the interesting thing about this is we're just binding that right here. So our component is actually this piece, and then we're just binding that just to take a look at it. But it keeps saying it's false. So let's dig in. Here is that compute valid method. And so let's say this. We're going to return the same answer that we had. But let's put in each of these as specific functions. So const required, const valid. I guess val is not a valid thing. And let's hit debugger. Okay. Now the cool part is Storybook is going to rebuild all the things. We're ready to go. And now when we refresh this, I'm not sure if I actually needed to refresh or if it did it automatically, but here we are. Okay. Pop open the F12 developer tools. And let's hit that breakpoint. Okay. So what request tells us is either true or false. And that's kind of where we were going, was true or false. But if it's not valid, so let's push play here. If it's not valid, we get back a string, not a true or false. And that's really where we're failing. So because this will return true or a string, if we want to do this, we have to say equals true, which just looks wrong. Or we just have to do it ourselves. And so in this case, I can go either way, but let's document this. Returns true or message, so compare to true. And I'm guessing that ESLint is going to be so mad at that. If that's the case, we may need to refactor this required method to not return the string, but rather just a true false, and then have a required wrapper that turns that into the message. Or, I hate to say it, copy paste the code into here. Okay, so now that we've got that solved, let's go into here. And right now, this component is valid. If we take this off, now it's, ooh, it's still true. That's unexpected. Now it's false. Well, the reason that, oh, it feels like it's backwards. We ought to put a unit test around this method in time. So we want to say not equal to true and not equal to true. So now we're going to find all the invalid rows, and let's try this out again. That could be a really cool future episode, is putting unit tests around this. In our admin project, we haven't done a great job at keeping up with unit and integration tests. So here's valid as true. It's still true. Now it's not true. And now let's put in some unexpected characters. Ooh, it still says it's true, but I think part of that is this. As we're binding to the property here in this handler, we need to say deep is true, and that will allow us to go catch all of the things. This is also a record of string and string, not just a record of string and any, and that may help us. Well, technically it's a string of any or undefined. Webpack is built. Let's fire this back up. Right here. Right here. Haha. Okay. Refresh. And if this doesn't work, we'll likely need to catch this in a unit test. Okay, so valid is true. Valid is false. Valid is true. Valid is still true. That says to me that our regular expression is broken. Valid characters, row.name. Let's take a look at that and see if we can get it to fail. Okay, so it's true. That's perfect. Let's put in some invalid characters. And that is false. Okay, so required row name and valid characters row name. I would then expect, let's set a breakpoint here. I would expect valid rows to be 0. That's perfect. Valid is true. Oh, let me do that again. I think I might have caught it. Breakpoint here. How many invalid rows do we have? We have none, and we should have 1. Let's do that again. Okay. This required not equals true, and this valid characters. Oh, it's casting. Haha, it's casting. Yeah. Valid characters. Required. This is about to get too big. Required. So not required or not valid chars. Okay, I think we might have caught it in the act there. Refresh. Okay, valid characters is false. Required is true. Let's put a breakpoint right there. How many invalid rows do we have? We have 1. Therefore, length is not 0. Therefore, it is valid false. Perfect. And if we remove this, now valid is true. Awesome. Definitely need a unit test here. So, but this comment should get us past the goal there. Okay, so we have this component, and it's updating valid. It's updating the input, which is the v model. And so let's jump into our product detail component. And right now, we just have this piece right here that says to do properties. Haha, we have a properties component now. Properties. Now here in this properties component, we do need to say v model equals product.properties. And we'll need to do some more things in a minute. Oh, actually, let's do this. Valid.sync. Sync is really cool because sync will do two-way data binding, where typical properties will only go one way. In Vue 3, we can have multiple v models, and that'll be really, really interesting. Properties valid. We do want to know when this is valid, so that'll be really helpful. Okay, so now we've got our properties in place. Let's come back over here. We do want to import properties from properties.view, and we want to export components. Properties. Cool. We haven't created properties valid yet. Let's do that. Form valid is true, and properties valid is true. Nothing's disputed it yet. But now here in our save button, we don't want to save if not form valid or not properties valid. So that'll be really interesting. Down here in our save method, we also don't want to save if this dot properties is invalid as well. Okay, so we're out of the realm of Storybook now. Let's come back in here and npm run serve and fire up our Vue app. This will take a minute to build. Ooh, port 5000. Localhost 5000. We've got it ready. Go, 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 go. Oh, while we're right here, waiting for it to build, we're going to call the save method if it submits, but we don't want it to continue submitting and actually post the form. So here in the submit, let's say .prevent. And .prevent will do cool things. .prevent says, don't actually do the action that the button does, much like returning false or e.prevent default. It just grabs it and does all the things straight away. So that's a really, really handy shortcut there. How's the build going? Starting development server, perfect. Localhost 5000. Ah, yes. Is it still coming up? Oh, nope, it's still building. Ha! Go, 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 go. So we've got the product method. Actually, let's talk a little bit while it's building about how these things connect. So we've got this v model, product.properties goes in. Inside this properties file, we have a v model. We have a property called value, which gets that v model object pulled in, which is perfect. Then as we change this, the way that we publish those changes back out is we publish the input event. So vModel pushes value in and takes input out. Then we have this update method and update valid, and that's where we get this vsync here, or this valid sync. So because we're publishing the update to sync, the update to valid, then that will modify this property in here, or this prop rather. Here's that prop valid, and we're not really taking anything in per se, so we could just emit an event, but it's a little bit easier to bind to a property than to bind to an event just to keep a current state. Either way, out here in our outer component, we've got that property, and we can do interesting things like go disable the button if those things happen. And then here's where we're going to go next. How's that build going? Still going. Go, 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 go. I bet in a minute we're going to get a warning that our Vuetify CSS is too big. Updating Vuetify together with Font Awesome, and we haven't pulled in any other third-party components, but it does take a little bit to get all of this in place. I also laughed that as it discovers more components, the second number goes up. This feels like, weird programmer math where it's like, okay, here's the progress bar, and the progress bar goes up and down and up and down. Are we there yet? That is so silly. Almost there. Almost there. Almost there. Almost there. We're almost there. We got it. We're so close. Yes, there we go. Oh, don't use object as a type. The object type is currently hard to use. Inside product.ts. Product.ts. Let's take a look at product.ts. Types. I believe it was inside types. Yep, types product.ts. Properties object. I don't recall how I solved that last time, but I think I'm going to ignore that for now because it really is an object. In all of the places, record string of unknown. That might be a good way to do it. But let's see if it'll let us through. No, it won't. Okay. That is interesting. Record of string. I bet now with that in place, that's not it. I bet with that in place, no type errors found. Cool. Now we're ready to log in. We may find some other places where binding to object is going to do really weird things now that we've flipped this to record of string. Like, for example, here in properties, we take this in as a type object, and we probably ought to take it in as a record string now too. Anyway, here we go. Now we haven't rigged login yet, so ASDF, there we go. We're logged in. In a future episode, let's also take on that, which will be really fun. Here's our test product. I'm going to dig into our test product, and we have the properties. Woohoo! We've got a product code, a name, a description. Our properties, let's add a property. This is new property. That is cool. And our save button lights up. When this is invalid, our save button doesn't. And similar thing when we don't have a product code, it disables as well. That's kind of cool that we put the number right there. Okay, so when we push save, we want it to save. And right now, it successfully does nothing. Well, it does nothing because, we're still in properties. Product detail. Here in product detail, it successfully does nothing because right there, Log in again. Test product, save. It successfully does nothing because we haven't built anything for it to do yet. That's perfect. Okay, so let's build that save method. This will be really, really fun. So what we wanted to do is we want to call our service fetcher. So const response equals, let me dig into my notes. Product detail. Now we could go straight into our response and go call fetcher dot blah blah blah. But now this component wouldn't be autonomous, and we couldn't put it inside of Storybook. So really, what we want to do here is not to actually do the save, but rather to tell the parent component that it's time to save. Okay, this dot $emit save this dot product. Okay, now it's no longer async. Okay, what we're saying is, hey, consuming product or consuming component, it's your job to save now. That's perfect. Here in our view then, views, product detail. Now let's subscribe to that save. So here we'll say at save equals save. And digging into my notes, product detail. Cool. Now this save is the one that's actually going to do the saving. That's really cool. We haven't built that method yet. Async mounted methods. Async save. And this is going to get a product. Well, kind of. We've already got the product. Technically, it'll get the product in here as well. But we've already got a this.product. But let's grab it. It could be fun to write a unit test to validate that those are the same. Okay. This.loading equals true. And then once we're done, this.loading equals false. This.loading will do some interesting things. Here, when we're loading, we'll hide the UI and just show the loading screen. We might want to show the UI and show the loading on top if that's the case. So we may want to come back to that visual decision. But then we'll say const result, and it's of type response product equals await fetcher of type product, and we're going to go to a method, a URL, and we'll pass in product. Perfect. Well, we don't have method or URL. Let method, let URL. So now the method needs to be of type, ooh, it's undefined. That's interesting. The method needs to depend on whether we're updating or adding. So if product.id, if we have an ID, then we are going to do an update. And so we can reach into our service to validate that this method is put. The URL then will be /API/product/product.id. That's the URL that we'll put. Else, we're adding insert. And so method equals post, and URL equals /API/product. We don't have an ID yet. Okay. So we've got our method, we've got our URL, we go pick the thing that we want to do. We've set loading before and after. Now based on this result, if result dot OK, oh, let's type these just in case. Method, that will come from Axios, and this URL is string. OK method. Import method from Axios, that is perfect. Thanks, VS Code. If we succeeded, then we want to return this $router.push/products. Let's go back to the index page. If we failed, this .save error equals true. Okay, so if we have an error, we probably want to do something about that. So on the way in, I'm going to say this .save error equals false. And we do need to create some data. Loading true, save error is false. Okay. That looks perfect. Let's set a debugger here and take a look at how this works. Save error does not exist on product detail model. Yes, we need to go tell product detail model that there is a save error that is a Boolean. Okay. I think we've got our types all set up. That's perfect. Ooh, missing semicolon. Product detail 82. 85, 82. You are correct. Now, if we had prettier installed, saving would automatically do that, or we could rig up Vue to do that on save as well. Right now we have fix on commit, which is pretty cool. Okay. So we have this. Let's log back in. Log in. Test broad. Let's update it. Foo bar. Save. Okay, what did we get in our product? Here's our properties. It's an object, and we have foo is equal to bar and has values. Perfect. Now we're ready to save. F10, save error is false. Do we have an ID? We do have an ID, so we're going to update put. Let's run our response. Go. Now what is our result? Unauthorized. Unauthorized. Yes. We get to hit our next thing. This is really sweet. So here we're not actually authenticating to our API yet. If we pop open our fetcher, and let me just push go so that Chrome isn't stuck. If we look at our fetcher right here, our fetcher doesn't authenticate to Axios. Now we need to set some headers. Let's say headers, const headers equals, let's go look at my notes. Services, fetcher, headers. Headers is of type, well, let's come back to that. We have a content type. We need to set this to application/JSON char set equals UTF-8. And optionally, if we have a JWT, then we need to also add headers.authorization equals bearer and our JWT. Well, where do we get our JWT? Well, that's in our store. So store.state.jwt. Have we pulled in our store yet? We have not. Go gadget. Awesome. Okay, so this is of type string or undefined, and headers is of type, we haven't invented it yet. Let's create a headers And let's come in here in types and let's say new file fetcher.ts export type headers. Now headers, we have two potential headers, content type, and that is a string, and authorization, which is optional, of type string. Now when we have more headers, we may want to come back in here and fill this out with more stuff. But for now, that's probably enough. Let's pull in our headers. Go gadget VS Code. Nope. Import headers from types fetcher. Okay. So now we pulled our JWT out of our store. We can set that authorization header, and let's put a debugger right there just so that we can see it happen. Okay. Do we have a JWT? We do. That is perfect. So now when we do any request, if we have a JWT, it'll pass in that authorization header. I'm going to pull this debugger out now that we've validated that that's the case. We definitely need a unit test to flex that. But back here in our product list, now if we click save, we go through that process. Let's push go and get to this result. Result. Okay, sweet. Oh, okay is false. Status is 404. What was our URL? API product 1 was our method. Our method was put. That is unexpected. So let's go into our API. Here's our API. Open with code. Now we have our API running right here. Not there. Right here. So let's stop that. Put API product 1. We got a 404. Here in VS Code, here's our API, properties, product. We want to take a look at the put method. Oh, here are our fixtures, our tests. That's interesting, but let's look at product. Product. Now we have this put method that takes in an ID, authenticates the JWT, and calls update product. Go to definition. It's thinking about it. I bet we can get there first. Create product. That will insert it into the catalog. Update product. Now it looks like the only way we'll get a 404 is right here in change rows. Let's set a breakpoint right there, and let's start up the debugger here. Now this is going to run on the normal API port, so we'll get that same proxying from view into place. But now we'll have a nice breakpoint where we can take a look at stuff. So let's push save again. Save. Let's go. Hit our breakpoint right here. This one, ooh. Could not proxy request. Status code 500. That is interesting. So is VS Code listening on a different port? Oh, it hasn't started up yet. My bad. Let's actually kill it and start it again, just in case. My guess is we're not getting one of these properties pushed into place, or we have an error in our SQL syntax. Let's take a look. TSC, go, 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 go. Building. Okay, we built. Debugger is listening. Oh, it failed. Cannot find API dist index. I see where we went wrong. Okay, so here in our API, now that we are building both the source and test directory, here inside our dist folder, we have a source and test directory. So the index that we need to run is right there, or the app that we need to run. Let's go look at our package.json. Our package.json doesn't know this yet. Our package.json says, go run, dist source index.js, which is right there. That's really weird. Terminal, debug console. Cannot find API dist index. I beg to differ. It's, API dist source index. I see where it is. Here in VS Code, in launch, we're not actually using the npm start. We're actually running it on our own. That's interesting. No, that's not. Is that? Node launch run. Pre-launch npm build. Dist index. Here we go. So this needs to be dist source index. There we go. Probably if we ran npm run instead of node launch, that might be a little gentler, but we're good. Okay. It's fun to find all of the pieces as we go through. We started out with a view component in a validation error, and then we had the JW, we were setting events in the middle, propagating events between components and views, and now then we set the API, the JWT auth in place to get to the API, and now we're taking a look at the API. This is fun to be able to review all of the pieces and get a feel for how all of the pieces get put together. Okay, running tests. I don't think that's, just succeeded, but we're still debugging. That's perfect. Let's save. Save. We hit our debugger. Now we hit VS Code. Okay. We have an ID. Our ID is 1. Our product, we have the product together with the name, product code, properties. We have the properties in place. That's perfect. If product.active is undefined, we need to cast it into true because we probably just didn't save it correctly. If properties is undefined, we need to set it as an empty object. Let's go get our database connection. Let's go update the data in the database. That's perfect. What is our result? Rows matched 1, changed 0. Oh, we didn't change any because, we just saved and didn't update anything. So looking at changed rows is probably a mistake, but rather affected rows. Let's make a note of that. Result.changed rows only shows if we actually saved something. But result.affected rows will show if we, whether we updated 1 or 0, but it will show if we matched 1. That's perfect. We probably don't need a breakpoint in the middle of that word. Let's restart this debugger, and let's click save again. Ooh, this one errored coming into the save, and we don't have a mechanism to get out of saving yet. I bet it timed out, actually. Log in. Not authorized. Yes. Oh, I bet our API hasn't started up yet. Does it still think it's debugging that one line? Let's stop this debugger. Timeout. There we go. We've stopped that debugger. I think because we've solved the problem, we can probably npm start it here in just the regular way, and we'll be able to see what we need to see. Okay. Here's our login page. Let's log in. Ooh, invalid email or password because we got a 500 from the server. I bet the server isn't up yet. Let's go double check. Yep, it's still building. That's what we get for jumping the gun there. Okay. Now let's log in. We are logged in. Here's our test product. We can save. Our save came back successful. That's great. And now we're back at the page. That's cool. So let's go change some stuff. The test product is changed. And we'll add a new value. Foo is foo and bar is bar. Let's save that. Save. Did we succeed? We did. That's great. And now the product is changed. That's perfect. Let's go pull our breakpoint back out. Not there. There. We can pull this breakpoint out, and we do have this breakpoint set in Chrome. That's perfect. So we have quite a bit of really cool stuff here. We were able to debug a web component just by setting in the debugger statement in Chrome. We got that web component's validation worked out. We emitted a view event that got us back to the outer component, and we emitted another event there that got us to the view. The view did the saving, and the beauty there is now we can test the component in isolation without having to validate that it can get to the API. When we posted the data from the view into the API, we got a validation error because we hadn't rigged up API authentication with JWT yet. We got our JWT token passed with that bearer token, and then we were able to log into our API. We saw a bug in our API, so we got that solved as well. And so ultimately, we were able to look at pretty much the entire stack. The MemSQL database is running inside of a Docker container, and all of those work really well together. We've got our admin site, we've got our API, and we've got our MemSQL Docker container. Next week, let's dig into adding some of the other fields that we've got. For example, in our app, we hard-coded a bunch of lorem ipsum things, and so let's turn those into components, including what will be